So as Luke said, I'm a therapist. I'm a Catholic therapist. And the funny thing about being a therapist is that, I don't know, I think everybody kind of knows that you're a therapist and have great listening skills, certainly. But sometimes I think it says like therapist on my forehead, you know, like, no joke, seriously. One time I was giving blood, right? And there I'm giving blood. And I'm just chatting a nice conversation with this guy. As soon as I say I'm a therapist, you know, he decides to start telling me about his marital problems, you know. I'm like, buddy, we're giving blood, you know, like, now's not the time, right? Like, it's like, I'm about to pass out, you know. Not that I want to hear what you got going on, but now's not the time, so thank you very much. But I enjoy my work, I really do. I enjoy being a therapist and helping people, which sounds weird, you know. When I was getting my counseling degree, people would ask me, like, so, you know, you're going to be listening to people's problems for the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. He says, so what do you think about that? And I said, well, you know, I don't think the world's going to stop having problems at any point, so I think I have job security, you know? Like, and if the world stops having problems, then I'll find something else and I'll be an accountant, I guess. Not an accountant, of course, but like that's what we do things. But anyway, so it's a joy, right? But the challenge of being a counselor is that there's only one of you, and there's only 1 hour in a day, and there's only one couple that you can work with at a time, so you're very limited in what you're able to do in terms of the scope or the reach of people that you're able to kind of actually work with and minister to, if we can use that language. So that's the gift of having lectures like this, or the podcast. Honestly, it's been such a joy in my life. I can honestly say I've been doing this show for about 15 months, and it's been something incredibly rewarding. I don't know how to talk about it. Just really something has been unlocked in my heart as I've been able to have these conversations with such amazing guests, and the feedback that I get from my listeners has really been incredibly encouraging. So I love having the opportunity to share thoughts with lectures such as this. Now, the gift of being a counselor and having done this work for a number of years is that I hear patterns of stories. You know, that people have issues, and you hear certain stories kind of repeat themselves. And so I figure, wow, well, if there's a few people kind of struggling with X or asking this question, then I can imagine that there are lots of people kind of struggling or asking similar questions. So having heard stories over the course of my career, I've put together this lecture as a way of being able to say, okay, these are a couple things that I kind of want to address. Some commonalities that I've heard, and things that I really want to kind of be able to speak clearly to, and just offering it up freely. You know, wherever it lands, it lands. You know, if your story connects with my story or these stories that we're going to be talking about, then great. If it doesn't, then praise God. We just kind of keep moving on. You know, on the day that we get married, I don't think we fully understand what we're doing. Right? Let's just kind of put that out there. Right? You know, like we do marriage preparation, and we say we got it all together, and yes, Father, you know, we're great. We're 97% compatible in the focus. We agree about everything. We've talked about everything, Father, right? We've done it all. But, you know, then we get married, right? And then reality happens and smacks us in the face. And we have to kind of deal with the circumstances that present themselves to us. Okay, so a little confession I have to make. This past weekend, I think, you know, the weekend before, I watched The Sound of Music for the first time in my life. Yeah, well, exactly. I knew that was the face I was waiting for right there. That was it, right? I'm 39 years old and I watched The Sound of Music for the first time in my life. And you know what was beautiful about the movie? I actually had no idea about the movie. I didn't know anything about the movie. Nobody had spoiled the story for me. I didn't even know the songs, right? That's absurd, right? It was so ridiculous that when they sang "Doe a Deer," a female deer, I was like, I learned that song in 5th grade. I had no idea that was The Sound of Music. That was my reaction watching the movie, right? Ridiculous, right? But I freaking loved it, man. Like, what a great story. And thinking about marriage, right? Because you think about, like, yes, they fall in love, and she leaves the convent. That scene, I'm not going to talk about the movie. But what was so beautiful is that, like, you think that you're following God's will, right? You've left the convent. You're pursuing your heart's desire. Here's the man that you love. You've committed yourself to him. In the very next scene, the Nazis take over. Right? I mean, all of us now obviously didn't have the Nazis take over the day after our wedding day, right? Because, well, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that old here, I mean, in most respects. But we all have an experience somewhat similar, do we not? We all have some unexpected event that happens, whether it's the next day, or a little souvenir that you bring back from your honeymoon, if you know what I'm talking about, that comes 9 months later, right? Or
or you lose a job, or something happens. But in the first few years, none of us are able to escape from the inevitabilities of life. And that's not being pessimistic. Quite the opposite. That's being realistic and recognizing that that is actually why we got married. To prepare us and to equip us, and so that we can share those moments together. The greatest gift that we have is our time. Our time. And how we commit and decide to share that time with one another. See, I think at least, that God gave us one another so that we wouldn't have to be lonely facing those problems. Because inevitably, life happens, suffering happens, struggles are going to happen. And our hope is, and what I'm trying to offer today, is hopefully we're connected, that those moments don't tear us apart, that those moments are actually ways of our love to be tested and to bring us together, and that we still have companionship in the midst of the trials, that we can still have somebody there with us as we're going through those transitions. That we can discern together the next step that's happening. Like, we need one another. And we need a commitment to firmly hold one another together. That's why we make vows. It's not just a piece of paper. It's not just a promise. It's not just some words. Like, it means something. It transforms us. It holds us together because those tough times are coming. How do we stay connected? How do we stay intimate? Like, yeah, we can pick ourselves our bootstraps, we can will it, we can do it, but do we still stay in love with one another all the way through? That's the challenge. And I believe, not being idealistic, but I do believe that it's possible. But it does take work. It does take intentionality. It does take sacrifice. And it does genuinely take some commitment. So, what I'm proposing this evening is really just kind of 5 thoughts, 5 ideas that I've kind of been percolating on or stewing on and thinking that I think they have some message, some merit to them. And so that's what I want to offer to you guys this evening. How do we stay connected over the lifetime of love, especially when the Nazis come? FYI, did everybody know? I didn't know this either, because I'm just going to say it. It's based on a true story. What? It's ridiculous, right? As soon as the movie's done, my wife's like, that was based on a true... What? That was based on a true story? I'm telling you, I was so oblivious to the sound of music. It's so ridiculous. Okay, so let's keep going. All right, so the first it really moved me, by the way, so I love it. Okay, no. All right, so the first thing that I want to say here is that we have to remember the first key of staying connected is to see our spouse as a gift, as a genuine gift. That gratitude is the key to everything. All of life, all of love is a gift that we have. And that we should be humbled before that gift and open our hearts to receive the gratitude that God has and wants to give to us. Our life is our gift. None of us are here because of, our own will. None of us created ourselves. And none of us created our spouses. And when I think of my life, I'm an immigrant. I came to this country when I was just shy of 2 years old. I'm from Nicaragua. And what brought us to Nicaragua, what made us leave Nicaragua was actually the civil war of the late 70s and early 80s. Then we fled, we came to this country, then I moved around all over the place, wound up in Florida at the right time when my wife did, and I happened to meet her in college. I mean, I think about my journey and how it had to work to kind of be orchestrated to get to the point that I met my wife when we did. It's really quite remarkable. And I'm sure many of us can experience that also. When you think back, you're like, what are the steps that allowed us to actually get together? Did I have any say in that? Or was the providence of God kind of walking me through all this? What's the country song that says something like, God bless the broken road that led me to you? It's beautiful. Do we maintain that disposition, though? Do we always kind of recall back into our memories and say, man, there's a gift in this person? And the reason that we're together in and of itself is a gift. And that it's God, the author, the orchestrator of all of existence, all of reality, would allow us to come together to share these few years together. It's awesome. It's awesome. Because the first threat against our relationship is when we lose sight of that. And then when we lose sight of gratitude, we fall into demanding or expectation, or that we take the person for granted. And we lose sight of what's actually happening between us. You ever try to give a gift? Maybe some of you have, like Christmas was a couple months ago, right? So maybe some of you have some nephews or nieces who, I'm not going to say this, but let's just say maybe a little bit on the spoiled side, you know what I'm talking about, right? And you try to give them a little gift, and you're like, hey, buddy, here's $15 to Target, you know? And they're like, whatever. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not the only one here, right? Exactly. Right? Hypothetical, of course, right? What do you feel? You're like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Hey, how about let me take that gift card back? That's stuck in my back pocket. I'm going to spend the money, right? Because I'm going to have more fun with it, right? But anytime we give a gift to somebody that requires something of us, and they don't receive it well, we all feel a little, turned off by it. Rightfully so, because we're giving a gift, and we want that gift to be reciprocated. We want the response. We want the person to love what it is that we've given to them. So, funny story that I'll share. And the 5 love languages, one of my love languages is giving gifts, material gifts. I love giving gifts. I love being able to find the right gift that the person wants, and I spend some time thinking about it, and I'm very intentional when I go shopping for gifts. I want to make sure that the person feels loved and blessed by it. My wife is not a gift giver. And sometimes she doesn't understand the rules either associated with it, right? So early on in our marriage, I knew that she had this one particular outfit that was really nice, and I knew she needed a pair of earrings to match the outfit, right? So I went to the store, I picked out these nice little turquoise stone earrings that looked perfect on the outfit, right? I was like, hey, here we go. This is going to be the gift that I'm going to give her for her birthday. So I gave her a gift for her birthday, which was great. Earrings, she opens up, beautiful. Thank you, Mario, I love you so much. These are great. Awesome. Her sister also gave her earrings for her birthday, right? The ladies already know where the story's going, right? So, earrings were nice also, little hoop earrings. They were great. They weren't as great as mine, I'm just going to say, because I spent a little bit more time and I knew exactly the outfit that I wanted them to go with, which was awesome. So, she doesn't wear the earrings the next day. Okay, no problem. Great, we did go out. It's all right. No big deal. She didn't wear the earrings the day after that. Okay, hey, no problem. It's all right. Week passes. We have the first opportunity to be able to go out and dress like adults. So we go out and we dress like adults, and she's looking great. Guess which earrings she was wearing? Her sister's. Guess who was not pleased with that experience? I was like, oh no, You're going to turn around and you're going to put the ones I got for you because they look even better on that outfit, right? That's what you're going to do, right? And she was like, what's going on? So we had this whole fight over earrings. It's absurd. But why? Because I felt rejected that she didn't put the gift on that I had given to her. She doesn't have the same value with material things that I do. So I had imposed onto her something that she wasn't thinking about either. But now, over the course of 17 years of marriage, she gets it. So when I give her the shirt, or whatever it is, she's going to wear it, right? Because that's what you do, to reciprocate the gift. You've received it, and you want the other person to know that you appreciate what's been given to you. That's what it is, right? So we have to always have this sense of gratitude with one another. I think about the fights that we had in our first year of marriage. Another place where we have kind of some incompatibility that did pop up on the focus assessment was on the focus. It didn't say, how do you fold your laundry? That wasn't one of the questions that came up. Well, if you haven't noticed already, I'm pretty particular about certain things, and I'm Hispanic, and so that means I dress myself. This outfit, yes, ladies, I actually picked it out myself. The tie does match the shirt. I know how to do this stuff because I'm Latino, and we do care about these things. So when it comes to my t-shirts, I have a particular way. So this is the story. The moral of the story is pray for my wife, right? This is what I'm trying to get at, right? She's got to deal with my neuroticisms, right? And here's another one. So the other one is that we're first year of marriage, first month of marriage, we're great honeymoon, great time, we're living together for the first time, and we're watching TV, and all of a sudden we're folding laundry. And as we're taking the clothes out of the dryer, she's taking my shirt out of the dryer, and she's folding the sucker in half, and putting it aside. And I was like, woman, what are you doing? Who folds their clothes in half, honey? Right? And she's like, well, what are you talking about? I said, you're messing with my collar. You can't fold the shirt in half, right? Because you mess with the collar. It's got to be folded in thirds. See, I get the nod in the back right there. Buddy over here understands what I play. He knows what's going on in the Sacasa house. You got to fold it in thirds, like they do at the Gap or any other store, so that the collar isn't messed up and that whatever's on the shirt stays nice. You fold it right in half and get the darn crease going down all the way to the middle. Not happening, right? So I was like, okay, here we go. Let's talk about this. So what are we doing? So we kind of dealt with it, whatever, no big deal, fine. The agreement was, well, if you want to fold your shirts the way you want to fold them, guess who has to fold the laundry? You do, buddy. No problem. Sounds great. Football on Sunday, awesome time to fold laundry. 3 hours. Just bring the pile over here, we fold it, put it aside, no big deal. That lasted a few years until we started having kids. 4 kids. 15, 12, 9, and 5. Folding laundry for children is like, you know the ancient story of Sisyphus, who keeps pulling the rock up and it keeps falling, and this is what he does for all eternity? Pushes the rock up and it keeps coming. You know what I'm talking about, that ancient Greek story? This is what it's like folding laundry with kids. Because when you have an adult, 2 adults in the room, a pile of laundry about this big, it's great. You fold it, you kind of see it go down. When you have kids and everybody's clothes are this big, and when you have a laundry this big, you keep pulling out the little clothes and you're there for 3 hours and it ain't getting smaller. It's still big. You're like, what the heck is going on? I swear I'm working on this. Are you sneaking more in or something like, is there a mouse or something throwing more lunches in, right? So at some point, you gave up on that. No big deal. All right. But my wife, God bless her, I'm so grateful for her, and that she still does the laundry. But the laundry now just stays clean in the basket, and she sifts it out, and so everybody's got to fold their own stuff. No problem. At this stage of the game, 17 years later, I am just grateful that I can go someplace to get my clean underwear in the morning. That's it. I don't even care if it's folded. I don't even care if it's wrinkled. I just need clean. That's the lineup. So, it's funny how when you get older, your expectations change. Before, I needed it folded and in my basket, in my drawer. Now, I'm just happy it's clean. That's all I need, right? So we gotta take each other, we've gotta be grateful for the presence of the other person. That's that type of mentality we have to hold all the way through. You think about all the commodities that we have in life, all the things that we get to share, all the things that we get to invest or grow, whatever. But the one fixed commodity that we have is our time. That's not something that we can put into the bank and get back with interest. Like, it's spent every day. It's gone. We all have the same amount. It's fixed. 24 hours, 365 days. That's it. And so when someone else is saying, I'm willing to give to you my time and commit my precious life, the one life that I get to live on this earth with you, that means something. It's really quite beautiful when we think of it that way. There's been a study that Harvard has been conducting for over 75 years. 75 years, Harvard has been following people and asking them, what does it mean to be happy in life? And over the course of 75 years, what Harvard has concluded is that intimate and close relationships are key to happiness in life. The individuals who have intimacy and happiness in those close relationships are happier than individuals who don't. So much as to say this, the results have said that people who had the healthiest and secure relationships at 50 were the most likely to be physically and neurologically healthy at 80. You can do that with a longitudinal study. You've been studying people for 75 years. You can see who they were at 50, and then you can measure that again who they are at 80. It's fascinating. It's awesome. So according to results, people who were lonelier and less happy were less healthy. So again, it's not just about being committed, but it's about the quality of our relationship, the attitude and dispositions that we take with the other person. Those things are important every single day. Those things aren't just important when we're newlyweds. They're not just important when we've been married 5 or 7 years. They're not just important when we've been married for 20 years. They're not just important when we're married 50 years. They're important every single day. The attitude and disposition of gratitude, of acknowledgement that there's something beautiful going on. We need to foster that. So the first key is to see your spouse as a gift and receive the gift that they are giving to you. The second key for this evening is to remember that your spouse is a mystery. A mystery. It means you will never have them figured out. Nor should you try to. As people of faith, we believe that we are not just animals that are a random composite of cosmic goo that has formed together randomly at this moment of history, and then at some point that cosmic energy just kind of eviscerates. That's not what we believe as people of faith. We believe that we are both body, that we have this natural body, this substance, this limitation, this thing that's here, that is also integrated with an eternal soul. And that's what makes us unique among all of creation. There are animals, and there are angels. Angels have the eternal peace. Animals have the temporal peace. But us as human beings have both. And we have to contend with both, always. But that means through your spouse's body, you are able to encounter and see her eternal soul. And I'm always speaking that because I'm a husband, right? So I'm going to speak about her as in my spouse. If I was a woman giving this talk, it'd be the opposite. Make sense? Right? Deal with me. So, we always have to maintain this disposition. That means that when we think about eternity, or when we think about mystery, that there's always something new to discover. There's always something new that we can learn about our spouse. And do we take the attitude and the disposition to want to always kind of figure that out? See, marriage, love is, I've already said, you already know this, is demanding. But the responsibility of loving another person is exactly the thing that forms me and shapes me. We're all called to a vocation of marriage. And what is a vocation? It's a calling by God. And why would God call us to marriage is because this becomes the path to holiness. You're not a saint at the beginning of marriage. You're a saint at the end. Or we hope that you will be. That it's the daily life that you live is the giving and the receiving of love that makes you a saint. And what's awesome about it is that because it is a sacrament, that it also becomes an icon to the world of God's love. That's what every sacrament is. It's an efficacious sign of God's grace. It's a physical sign of an invisible reality that's there. We can't see God physically. We can't hear God. We can't smell Him. We can't taste Him. But we can see Him through certain signs and symbols. And one of the 7 is this. It's you. And because God is the creator of the whole universe, He allows each and every single one of us to express His love very uniquely, very intimately. It's awesome. So the way that you express God's love and the way that you live it, and that you live it, and that you share it is different than the way that I have the opportunity to do so. Why? Because the circumstances of my life are different than the circumstances of yours. But God knows all of the circumstances of all of our lives and invites all of us to be this prophet, this image, right? This person, this relationship that communicates grace into the world. That tells the world that love is real. That tells the world that God is real. And our world needs to hear this message. An attack on marriage is an affront against this symbol. It's the clearest way of seeing God's love. When humans love each other well, we are moving towards the divinity, moving towards the divine love. Now again, every analogy falls short. God isn't married in heaven. God doesn't want to have sex with you. That's weird. Don't say that, right? That is taking the analogy too far. But nevertheless, the intimacy that we experience without losing our individuality, you understand? That balance is somehow, in some small way, an opportunity, a window, an icon, a foreshadow of what it means to be loved by God. It's pretty awesome. That's the mystery that we're invited to in our relationship. So with that then, when we encounter one another, kind of gets into the first piece, but we just kind of, hey, good morning, you know? Nice to see you. Well, does our spouse, in some way, even after years of marriage, still give us a sense of wonder? A sense of like, man, this is awesome. When you listen to love songs on the radio, do you still think about your spouse? The hardest thing of marriage, I would say, is this. Is accepting your spouse for who they are today. When you're young and first married, maybe you got married and you're expecting your spouse to be somebody else in 5 years. I'm going to marry this person. I'm married who they're going to be in 5 years. I've seen those couples in marriage counseling. You know what happens in 5 years? They're coming to see me. Why? Because their expectation was that this person was supposed to change, and they never did. It's not a fair expectation to the person. What also happens, conversely, when you've been married for 20 or 25 years, is that you compare your spouse to who they were the day you got married. And then you say, well, you used to be fun. We used to have a great time together. What happened to all those things? And you put demands on your spouse for who they used to be 20 years ago, rather than learning how to accept them for who they are today. The vows that we make aren't vows just on the day of our wedding, but they're every day. We have to be renewing them internally, not just formula like you guys are doing this evening, but like in our hearts and our minds. Do we still have wonder about our relationship? Is there still mystery? Is God still guiding us? Is there still an adventure that's unfolding? Or have we had it all figured out? Is there still some mission that we're supposed to do together? Is there still romance? Is there still a longing to want to get to know one another? Is there still something new that happened to you today that I wish you would share with me? Do I still find interest in you? Do I still like you? Do I still long to be with you? Those questions, that feeling, that desire, all of that should be cultivated in our relationships. And we shouldn't lose that. And those are things that should only be relinquished to the young. Those are things that we should all be doing. Okay, keep going. See them as a gift. Remember that they're a mystery. And the third piece. Do we spend intentional leisure time together? Leisure time. Well, what is leisure? What does it mean to be at leisure? Joseph Pieper, who is a German philosopher who has written about leisure, said that leisure is only possible when man is at one with himself. And that often we overwork to justify our existence. Spoke very clearly against workaholism that was threatens all of us, right? We bust our tail, and I fall into this many times in my life, is that I need to define myself by what I get done today. And I'm only worthy if I get so many listens to my podcast. Or I'm only worthy if I talk to so many people in a presentation. Or I'm only worthy if I have so many couples that I'm working with in counseling. And then we quantify our life and we put it up here. And it's so easy to fall into this utility of life and say that my life is only valuable by X things that I do. Now again, God does call us to work. Work existed before the fall, and so there is an invitation by God to co-create with Him. And when we're working with God and being in mission with Him, there is a sense of commitment and diligence in working with God to do something great. So all those things you talk about can bring glory to God. Absolutely, they should. But in and of themselves will never fully define who you are as a person. Because who you are as a person is a beloved child of the Heavenly Father. So, leisure then means being able to find rest with one another. Do we rest together? And you know what? That's hard to do sometimes. Like, my kids are 15, I'm kind of in the throes of everything. You know, we got a 15-year-old, a 12-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Man, they're busy. All of our kids are. Everybody's got something going on. So every night it's always like, okay, hey honey, I'd love to see, okay, so you're running here, and you're running here, and you got to take care of that, and you got to take care of that, and then at some point we're going to hopefully, have 2 minutes together. Great. Awesome. Break. Team. Let's go. Right? So we have to be intentional about finding rest together, finding leisure together. Another way of saying this is this way. Are we still friends? Or are we falling into a parenting partnership? A parenting partnership is this. Here's the beginning of the week, just like you do with anybody else that you work well with. Okay, here are your responsibilities that you got to do, and here are my responsibilities. And if we're fair, then they both look more or less about the same. And as long as they are more or less about the same, and you do what you're supposed to do, and I do what I'm supposed to do, then this contract will get renewed every year. It's easy to fall into that, is it not? Maybe not that bluntly, but like the attitude is more or less there, is it not? Because then what happens is that when we fall into this parenting partnership, it's like, well, my list actually is getting a little bit longer than yours. And so I don't like that. If you generally feel an injustice in that regard, you talk about it. But when we start getting into demands and expectations and holding this one another tit for tat, watch out. Are we friends? Are we friends? And the reason that friendship is key to a relationship is that because it's a clear way of marking when we're starting to drift. It's so easy in a relationship that when you're super busy, even on good things, even if you're serving the church and doing everything that Father's asked you to do, and you're doing all the right things for your kids and everything else, you're doing all the 15 things you're supposed to do, but sometimes it's easy just to kind of start drifting. And I've seen this often in relationships that after 15 or 20 years, all of a sudden, it doesn't start it doesn't happen overnight, it takes a while. All of a sudden, you've just started drifting. And then you're running into this parallel life, and then at some point, you even start drifting apart from one another. Then the kids leave, and you're like, who are you? Right? What do we got together? It's very easy to fall into that. So the reason then that we talk about friendship is that if we're staying connected all the way through, that if you are really friends, at some point, if you start drifting, the thought should come to you, you know what? I just miss my friend. I just miss hanging out with my buddy. And I want to kind of connect with her and see what's going on, find some time to hang out. That's the reason why we should be looking towards friendship as an integral part of our relationship. What do friends do? Friends hang out. Friends play sports together. They drink beers and smoke cigars. I don't know if you're not going to do it with your spouse, but you know what I mean? Like you watch movies together. You just do stuff together. Just because you can. And because you want to. This degree of intentionality requires some sacrifice. What it means is that sometimes if you only have 30 minutes a week to spend together, what are you going to do during that time? Are you going to watch a TV show? Whose TV show are you going to watch? Is it her show? Are you going to watch This Is Us? Or we're going to watch Monday Night Football? Right? What are we going to do? Sometimes we need to make sacrifices and we say, okay, we're going to watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I haven't watched the show, I should know it comes on Amazon Prime, or The Queen, we'll talk about The Queen, right? But sometimes we're going to watch Jack Ryan, you know? Because I don't watch that show either, just making stuff at this point. But you know my point, you know what I'm getting at, is that we want to make sacrifices, and sometimes there has to be a little bit of a give and take. But are we intentionally making time for one another? And so something to contemplate this evening for you, the question is, what are creative ways that you can spend time together amidst the busyness of life? What are creative dates and things that you can do? What are things that you want to do that you haven't been able to do? A good friend of mine, their kids are getting older, but they committed that they both worked, both working parents, kids go to school. After they pick the kids up from school, after they come home from work, They would always spend 15 minutes on the front porch connecting before they transitioned into the day. And that's what they would do. They would sit on the front porch, the kids would go inside, they'd be doing whatever they needed to do to get their homework done, but before they moved into helping the kids with homework or getting dinner going, they would always reconnect at the end of every day. It's beautiful. Even as I was driving up here, I worked all day, I've been at work since 7:30 this morning. Left the office at 4:30 to be here with you fine, beautiful folks. So what did I do? I called my wife on the phone. So we could have at least 20 minutes of just chatting, catching up about how our day went. Those little things are not insignificant. That's the point, is that your relationship is built on a series of seemingly insignificant things. It's a conglomeration of all the little things and all the little moments that you make a decision to stay committed or to turn away from one another. The intentionality to find rest and leisure and time together versus the times that you choose something else. And there's a lot of competing agendas against this. And many of those agendas are in fact really good. But the greatest good is us. And so we'll always must put us as a priority. So, find time together. Go on a walk. Do dates. Let the kids watch that extra TV show. It's okay. They're not going to die. So that you can have a few minutes of just connecting and putting your relationship first. So the fourth thing then is regular, meaningful conversation. Connected to the last piece about spending leisure together, what's the substance of your talks? If you've fallen into a parenting kind of program or a parenting kind of parallelism or a partnership, then it's easy to talk about the stuff that you talk about with your colleagues at work. All right, what bill is getting paid this day? Who's got that? Awesome. Who's picking up Johnny from school? Who's doing this? Bam, bam, bam. You talk about all the things, the stuff that needs to get done. Again, those conversations need to happen. No denying. You got to have those conversations. But are you still having the conversations from time to time that you had when you were dating? The getting to know you phase of a relationship never ends. If we said earlier that there's a mystery and there's something new to discover about your spouse every day, do you ask those questions? Is your wife's favorite movie today the favorite movie that she had 15 years ago? You know, my favorite ice cream when we got married was mint chocolate chip ice cream. I loved mint chocolate chip ice cream. It was my favorite. You know what's not my favorite ice cream today? Mint chocolate chip ice cream. I'm old-fashioned. I just like good vanilla bean now. Okay, so I'm just going to say that. The point is that if we haven't been talking about what my favorite ice cream is, and let's say my wife and I have a particularly rough patch, and we're going through some difficulties, and my wife at some point realizes, you know what? My husband loves gifts. Because I already said it, my husband loves gifts. And I know his favorite ice cream is mint chocolate chip ice cream. And so, one night, in an attempt to want to make up our relationship, she decides to drive around. This is all hypothetical, of course, right? She decides to drive around. This actually is hypothetical, but I'm trying to move on. She decides to drive around all over Baton Rouge to find the best darn mint chocolate chip ice cream because she knows that her husband loves gifts and loves mint chocolate chip ice cream. In an attempt to want to make up the relationship and try to get things going again, she wants to give me the best ice cream that I would ever want. But because we haven't been talking about ice cream for 15 years, she doesn't know that mint chocolate chip ice cream is no longer my favorite ice cream. So here she comes to the door, gives the beautiful gift of mint chocolate chip ice cream to me as an attempt. And what would I say in that moment? Thanks, honey. But I don't like mint chocolate chip ice cream. What would she do? She'd probably just throw it in my face, right? You're going to like it tonight, that's for sure. Totally ridiculous. But the point is that, like, we're supposed to have these conversations so we can stay connected and understand what each other's interests are because those things change over time. Now, this is a true story that I'm about to share with you. So my in-laws, who I love dearly, have been married for 35-something years, and it's a wonderful testament of their relationship, probably 40 years at this point. But I've been part of the family for a long time now. So at year 25, we were at their house. We were having a wonderful barbecue. And it was great. My father-in-law was outside cooking burgers and grilling for everybody, nice hamburgers. It was great. We get inside, and he's sitting down, and my mother-in-law says, "Hey, Bill, can I make your burger for you?" And he says, "Yes, Patty, go right ahead." And she brings out the burger to him, and she says, "Would you like ketchup and mustard on it?" He says, "Patty, I don't like ketchup." Patty says, "Bill, we've been married for 25 years, and I I've put ketchup and mustard on your burger every single time, and not once have you ever told me that you didn't like ketchup. And he says, I don't like ketchup. And she says, so what have you been doing all this time? He says, I've just been grateful that you've made my burger. But you ask me now, and I'm telling you, I don't like ketchup. She was dumbfounded, right? Like completely flabbergasted. And we're all at the table laughing. I mean, I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is so funny, right? But it's true. Like, he didn't care, whatever, no big deal. But he had finally at 25 years, I had the opportunity to say, you know what? I don't like ketchup. No big deal. So for us, we have to be able to have these kind of regular conversations because you don't know. Maybe they don't like ketchup, because you never asked, all right? But more than that, like our hobbies and our interests change over time also. This past weekend, I'll share this. This past weekend, in addition to watching The Sound of Music for the first time, I ran my very first marathon. And I'll say, for me personally, it was, I could do a whole talk on it. It was actually one of the most physically gratifying experiences of my entire life. I'm not sure if we have any other marathoners in the room, but I ran cross country in high school, and I've wanted to run a marathon for over 20 years at this point. It was always kind of the gold standard, the mark of what it meant to be a runner, was to accomplish this great feat. And so my wife knows that we've kind of shared with her a little bit about, the timing of I wanted to do it or whatever, but the timing was never really right to do it. So even though I've had the interest for it, the opportunity for it never quite presented itself until this past year. I ran the Crescent City Classic last April, and I said, I'm going to run the Rock and Roll Marathon in February. So from August on, I really committed myself to it. The point is this. The 3-hour running days that I was out there training and running 18, 20 miles, I needed my wife's support to be able to do that. If I was just out doing it on my own and ramming it into the family and being like, hey, we're going to do this because this is important to me, and you better support me, you think she would have been on board with that? Of course not. But the conversations that we were having throughout all this process, she knew how important it was for me to accomplish this goal. And so Sunday was awesome. The boys were there, they drove to mile 15 and they cheered me on, and then she dropped the boys off the finish line, and then at mile 23 she was cheering me on, and then she drove to the finish line at mile 26, there they all were, cheering me on. It was awesome. It was really, I had a very emotional experience the whole time. But because we love one another, because we support one another, we have these goals and we have these ambitions and we have these desires, and we have to kind of be discerning about who takes the lead when, who does what when, because you can't do everything all the time. So if you're having intentional conversations with your spouse, if you're engaging with them on a regular basis and sharing what's going on in your heart and your desires, then you can find ways of being able to support one another's dreams. What do you want to be when you grow up? Does your spouse know that? What do you want to do in 5 years? Does your spouse know that? Do you have a plan of wanting to accomplish those things? Are the movies that you're watching now the same ones that you watched 20 years ago? Are the songs you're listening to now the same ones? Do you know the answer to these questions for each other? Is your spouse's favorite ice cream still mint chocolate chip? Do you know? Or do you not? These are the questions that we ask when we're dating somebody, always. Who's your family? What's going on in your life? See, but as soon as we think that we got them figured out, and we stop asking those things, we lose the substance of the relationship. We lose the fire that keeps us together. So the last thing that I want to say, and I know I'm kind of going over my time here, but I think that's all right. The last piece then is that flows right out of that emotional kind of connection, emotional intimacy, that friendship, that sharing, that longing to be together, is the physical aspect of our love. The great gift of marriage is that we get to embrace one another in a very particular way, do we not? Sexual love is a gift by God that is given to us and that is meant to be housed within the sacrament of marriage. Because there's so much emotion, so much intimacy, so much fireworks that happen that it can only be safely contained within the bounds of marital love. If you have been emotionally committed, emotionally desiring the other person, emotionally seeing the mystery of who they are and desiring to have that type of intimacy, then the physical intimacy usually flows right after that. And quite honestly, builds upon that. The two are not incompatible with one another and do not stand in contrast to one another. The one builds on the other. So do you guys have conversations about that? Right? Great gift of our church's teaching when it comes to contraception is not to say that sex is bad or rather quite the opposite. It's a recognition that fertility is actually part of the equation. Openness to life is a recognition that a woman's fertility is actually beautiful. And if I'm going to love the fullness of who she is, that means I need to love her fertility too. Her cycle, her rhythms, her emotions that go with it. All of it is part of God's plan for who she is. And my job as a husband is to love and respect the fullness of who she is and not tell her just to stifle that or to shut that part down. I love every aspect of it except for that one thing right there. This is the church's teaching that is so misconstrued because it's like it says it's a threat against women, it's an offense against women. It's quite the opposite. Fertility awareness-based methods of natural family planning are the only way to respect women as they are. You'd have to take the whole kit and caboodle. You gotta love her all. And be committed to the complexity of the problem, because it is complex. But when you do that, freedom, love comes, because you're loving her as she is. And you're willing to go on that ride with her and journey with her. And that the responsibility of parenthood is shared. It's not just hers, it's ours. And so we have conversations about when she's fertile, when she's not. Are we going to? Are we going not? What are we going to do? Those type of regular, meaningful conversations build a relationship together. And so then we're bringing it all. If we're going to love like God loves, that means we're going to love with intimacy. We're going to love with intentionality. We're going to love with complete commitment. We're going to love with abandonment. And we're going to love with fecundity, with fruitfulness. And at the end of the day, the relationship that exists between the two of us isn't even about us. It's about our children. It's about the fruitfulness that comes out of us. It's about the lives that we touch. It's about the people that we encounter with. It's always this outgrowth. Why? Because that's who God is. God is creator. God is redeemer. God is sanctifier. We're called to that same type of love that is always an outward type of love. And that starts in the bedroom. So the contraceptive mentality goes against all of that. And it puts our pleasure and our needs at the supreme center of everything else. Rather than God's design for our fertility, God's plan for our love and our intimacy. And do we trust that God has our best interests in heart? Do we believe that God is calling us to trust Him? So my encouragement to you is, if you've never done this before, this may seem a little radical, but we always say grace before meals. Do we say grace before we share that experience? Or even after the fact, and the joys of the afterglow that we often experience, do we offer up that experience of contentment, of rest that we often have with one another towards our Lord? And invite Him to be with us even in this profound vulnerability and intimacy that we experience. So God gave us our sexuality as a profound, profound gift. We don't get to share it with anybody else. God wants to be present in all of that as well. Also then, do we have regular conversations about what's going on in the bedroom? About respecting one another, about the things that we do, about the behaviors that we engage in. Is it genuine what the other person wants? Or is there something different where they don't feel comfortable with? Are we honest and respectful with them? I know those are touchy conversations. I know they're hard to have. I know that we all come into this conversation with some degree of baggage. But do it. Talk about those things. Make those part of your regular conversation too. It's important. Because the last thing you want is to fall into a routine in the bedroom. That's very easy to fall into as well. You got the rhythm set up, turn one way, turn the other, you kiss for this long, you do this, you do that, bam, you go to sleep. Right? Well, that's not a lot of fun. Ain't no mystery in that, you know? Now, it doesn't mean you have to get all, freaky or whatever, okay? It doesn't mean you have to go looking at all the crazy stuff. I'm not saying that either, right? But it should be a genuine expression of who you are today. But that does take into account your age, and I know things get a little older, I understand this happens, it's all right. But how are you still finding those moments of tenderness, and how are you expressing your love with one another in a way that is particular to your day today? See, it doesn't require much. A little shift, a little different hand kissing, a little different touch, a little bit of a different kiss. It doesn't require radical changes, but just enough that every time is exactly the same. Is what keeps the mystery intact. So, be open to being intimate. Be open, right, to being surprised at whatever God would want to do, even in the bedroom. So, 5 things, right? Bringing this all together. See Him as a gift. Remember the mystery. Spend time together, intentional leisure time together. Have regular, meaningful conversations. And engage in a healthy, physical, sexual love that is particular to the two of you. Romance, like I said, and this is important to repeat, is about seeking the other person. Romance is about mystery. Without mystery, there is no romance. As soon as we lose sight of the mystery, we lose sight of the romance. We lose sight of the seeking, of the adventure that is the other person. That commitment that requires everything that I am. So my encouragement to each and every single one of you is to stay connected over the course of a lifetime of love. Is that we have to be dedicated to the constant unfolding of who our spouse is. And that we always want to be surprised by their goodness. And that we always want to be able to receive and enjoy the great gift that they give to us. And if that isn't your situation right now, and you find yourself in a period of resentment or antagonism or difficulty, go find somebody to talk to get back on track. We're great therapists here in the Baton Rouge area that can help, certainly. Fight for your relationship. It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to your kids. It's worth it to you. I promise you, it's absolutely worth it. So brothers and sisters, thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to be with you this evening. It's been a sincere pleasure. I hope that you have a wonderful time at Mass and renewing your vows. And I have blown through 7:45, so it's 8 o'clock. So what do you want to do, Luke? You're the man with the time. So. I got time, but I don't want to hold you up to your schedule. So if you guys do have some questions, I'd be happy to receive them, and some thoughts you'd like to share. I'd be happy to hear them. Fire.
Do you recommend that I see the sound music?
Yes, I do. Climb every mountain. I cried when Lynn said that. I cried. I was like, she's telling her not to go to the convent. Yes, watch this out. It's 3 hours. There's an intermission in the movie. That's how old the movie is, So this is another one. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about this, right? I was watching it with my wife, right? And I broke it. I knew it was 3 hours. I knew I was going to break it up over a couple nights because obviously I don't have 3 hours in any given night just to sit down and watch a movie. So I sit down and watch the movie. We get to like an hour, hour 15 or whatever. And I was like, all right, this is a great place. I'm going to stop it right now. So we stop it. The next night we start the movie. 5 minutes into starting at the night 2, the intermission starts. I look at my wife and I was like, you've seen this movie. Why did you tell me there was an intermission in 5 minutes? We could have just waited. Yes, watch this, please. Beautiful. Yes, Bridget. Jeff, did you have a question?
I did that one. Did you figure it out?
I did.
Never mind.
Can you give some suggestions about creative leisure time together?
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably done this with other couples. I mean, we've all, have these ideas, but I was wondering about some other ones.
Yeah, so for one of our anniversaries, we kayaked the Bayou St. John. And we did that.
that was awesome. We've gone and spent the night at the Bogachita State Park as well. That's quite beautiful, way up closer to Franklinton. In New Orleans, there's always a new place to go to eat, so certainly we have that as an option as well. But honestly, we're kind of boring, to be honest. Like, there just comes a point where I just want to find a place where we can talk.
Does exercising together count, or is that more utilitarian?
No, I think that counts, absolutely. As long as it's shared, as long as you're enjoying that time together and it's not a competition. What's that Gatorade commercial with, Dwayne Wade and his wife, Gabrielle Union or whatever, they're like competing with one another. As long as it's not leading to conflict, you're like, oh, you're lazy, honey. You ain't burning the calories that I'm burning, If it's, as long as it's like genuine, like time together, then yeah, go do your spin class together or do your Zumba or whatever you want. I'd love to see you. So yeah, anything that can allow you to spend time together. We would do that. Like when we used to have a membership at the Y, those are some of the things that we would do. We would maybe work out together and have an opportunity for us to kind of talk while we're doing different exercises and things, because we know that the kids are in the child care area and stuff. So those are some things. Great question.
You mentioned kind of the idea of partners in parenting, and you're on this parallel path. I find also that spiritually, in our spiritual lives, we could also kind of get on these parallel paths where we have spiritual lives and we have prayer lives. Do you have any recommendations on couple prayer or coming together as a couple on that level?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing obviously with our prayer life is that it is quite individual, and there is a place where, even in marriage, like, your spouse is in between your ears, like, God is there with you in a particular way. And so, do you support each other's prayer life in the unique ways that you pray individually? So that's the first piece. For me, non-negotiable is my 30 minutes with Scripture every morning. That's been a lifesaver since I've started that. For my wife, she loves the Magnificat, being able to read that at night. So I bought her some Scripture to be able to have that devotional every evening, where she's able to spend time praying that. But then praying together is another form of intimacy. And what that looks like, well, it's particular to each of you as a couple. Maybe you like a little bit more free-flowing prayer, that you kind of offer your intentions for the day together, and then you take turns doing that, and then you say Hail Mary, and then you end the day. Maybe you do you prefer more structure, and would like to say night prayer together, or do some of the office of readings together. That's great. Or maybe you really love the rosary, and you want to pray the rosary together. It's phenomenal. All of that's on the table. The beauty of the church is that there are many different flavors upon which you can be a Catholic. Which ones do you share together? Right? That's the key. And so what do you do together that helps you together to grow in your relationship while also supporting each other's individual walks with the Lord? Do you allow your spouse to go on a retreat once a month, or not once a month? That's too much, right? You can't go on a retreat once a month. I know we need you here. But like, at least like once a year, or maybe once every other year. I mean, when Christi and I, we have an hour of adoration at our parish Monday nights. And we take turns, Monday 10 o'clock. So I go one night, she goes one. I go one, she goes one. And we alternate. Like, those are different ways that you can kind of at least have some time, even if it's not together, but you're trying to be in unison. In making sure that prayer and spirituality is centered to your relationship. Do you talk about things that you read? Do you have insights or things that come to you? Do you have aha moments that you want to share? All of those things is part of your prayer life, part of the shared relationship that you have. But yes, certainly, you have to have some type of commitment, some firm thing that you do on a regular basis. Even if we are tired, we will say a Hail Mary. Every day we offer something together in prayer. What do you tithe? What are the sacrifices that you offer? Do you have conversations about the charities that you give to? Or is it just one person wants to be the one who's always giving? It's like, no, that's too much, right? Do you have a budget? All those type of things is part of your spiritual life. What do you do in service together? All of that is part of it as well. It's certainly prayer. Yes, sir.
So, how do you deal with what I call time poachers? Whether it's, a ministry or your kids, or because, I mean, we've all got busy lives, and it almost seems like it's just so, I mean, that's what I struggle with, is finding the time for us to have those, the intimate conversations together and things like that. It's, people are always, oh, by the way, I need this, and it's just...
Yeah, I think so, because we all have busy times, sometimes it's good to examine the week and take it on a week-by-week basis and say, here's the moment. And then you put that in the calendar, and then you share that invitation with your spouse on her iPhone, and then you make it a priority. And that's what you do. Everybody's got smartphones. Put the thing on put it on the calendar, and make that your shared calendar. And so that you both can see where it is, and you figure out later what you're going to do. Right? And you got to be committed to it. So then when the poacher comes in, where the kid says, I got to get to basketball practice or whatever, you're like, well, find a ride. That's why we bought you a bike. Have a good time. Or your brother wants to kind of stop it. Be like, oh, I bought this grass roll, it's your favorite. Mom, I love you, but I'm having a time with my wife. That means you have to set boundaries, is my point. And if it's going to be a priority, then it's going to be a priority. And that's what matters. Now, I get that your kid randomly drops the glass and then cuts himself and they're bleeding everywhere, right? That's not when you say, hey, honey, give me 5 minutes, right? You understand what I'm saying? Like, obviously, within reason, like, emergencies do happen. But unless it's that, don't come knocking on the door, because we're having a chat. Stop bothering us. It's okay, and your kids need to know that also. Right. Great question. Modeling boundaries is good for our children, even if they don't like it. Yes, ma'am.
Of those 5 things that you covered, which would you say could be the biggest threat to a healthy marriage if it was ignored?
I think the leisure time, to be perfectly honest, precisely for the reason that we just spoke about here. We are so busy. We're too darn busy. We think that our kids need to be in 15 things so that they can be socially well adjusted. They might be socially well adjusted, but we're not. It's okay. It's okay, Like, I just think that the busyness of our American life is pulling away from us. Because it's not just even like those things. What then happens is that we just get on our phones. How many of us, if we're honest with ourselves, do this? Pick up the phone. 20 minutes later. 25 minutes later. Put it down. I didn't even get on for the one thing I needed to get on. Pick it back up, and then you actually go to the website that you initially got on for, right? That's 25 minutes that you just blew spending time with your buddies on Facebook rather than hanging out with the person right next to you, right? So set limits on your phones. I got a 30-minute social media limit on my phone. After 30 minutes, my social media turns off. That's it. That's all I get a day. And then I can choose to ignore that or not. Do you set those type of things? You can work with your devices and set those type of limits. You don't realize how much time we spend, just doing all these kind of random things. How many times do I need to check ESPN today? Once? That's not enough, but 10 times? Lunch, right? Like a couple times. It's okay, right? You don't need to know the score of everything. National Signing Day is over. College football isn't going to happen until August. We're all right. We can let it go. I'm sorry, spring ball happened sometime before, but that's okay. And no one cares about the XFL, so what's going on right now? It's all right. Elephants are playing good. That's awesome. So these are the type of things that you have to kind of be realistic with. The poachers, you realize that sometimes it's other people, but sometimes I am bleeding my time out doing other things that I need to probably be a little bit more judicious with and kind of snip up and say that 25 minutes that I spent scanning Facebook or social media, whatever it is, I could have been in the kitchen with my wife, doing the dishes together and having a conversation about the day. Because the kids were watching TV and she was there doing something and we could have been there together, sharing that moment, just spending a few minutes catching up. The little moments are there. We just have to see them and we have to seize them. And if we seize them repeatedly, not every day, it's impossible every single day, but maybe 3 days out of the week, it's better than nothing. 5 days out of the week, we got a little momentum going, all right? It can't be every day, that's impossible. But most days, are we doing it? That's the key, I think, of all the others. Because then everything else flows out of that. Then you're having a conversation with one another, right? And then you're seeing the goodness of the person. And then you're right on the mystery. And then if it's Happy Fun Week, you know, on the natural family planning charts, you're like, hey, I'm glad we're sharing this time together. Let's knock the kids out with Benadryl and keep this conversation going. It's all on the table. Anyways, so last question, and then we're done? Last question, Alexis.
Just real quick, how important is it to get out of the house? So we have like a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Makes it very difficult. How important is that?
The realities of your circumstances, right? I'm not saying like every year has to look exactly the same. You have to understand the circumstances of where you find yourself right now. We don't have family in town. So it wasn't until honestly that Gabriel was old enough to be able to babysit his younger brothers that we were actually able to really get out. So for us at that age, when the kids were really young, we didn't get out very often. But what we did try to do was really work hard on getting the kids to bed on time. So if we can get them down while they were young at 8 o'clock, then if we're out of the room by 9 p.m., realistically, that gives us an hour and a half before we're supposed to be going to bed. 2 hours, right? If we're getting out of the room at 10 o'clock because we've fallen asleep on the bed, right? Then we wake up groggy and we're frustrated, and then we blow 2 hours on the iPad at midnight and we start the day all over again. All right, so that means that there has to be some, like I check on my wife when she's with the 5-year-old, right? I'll come in after 15 minutes, I'll be like, hey, honey, come on. And vice versa, because you fall asleep, it just happens, you're tired, right? But if the other person's trying to hold each other accountable, that's it. So if you can get out at a decent time, then you can have a couple hours in the evening together, and I think that is sufficient for this stage when the kids are little. You can't go on dates. If you have babysitters you trust, it's fine, it is what it is. But then that's the time that you can watch the show that you've wanted to watch on Netflix. What's the show that everybody's talking about? I don't know. You know? Or do you have a show that you guys want to watch together? You do that, and then you start your season. Whatever it is. I don't think it's necessarily important to have to get out all the time. At this stage, it's really just about the setting order so that you have time together. All right? Great. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.